Thank you for joining us tonight in our virtual New Homes for Sale link presentation here on May 17th, 2022. And we have a lot to talk about tonight. And so I want to go ahead and just get started and kick us off. Let me see who's on the chat and join us virtually. I think I want to go ahead and hand it off to Assistant Director Ray Miller to kick off our introductions, and then we'll hand it off to staff from Vice Mayor Pro Tem's office. So, Ray, please go ahead.
Thank you, Jeremiah. I appreciate it. Thank you, and welcome to our virtual event this evening. What we're here to talk about is your feedback and comments and summaries about a new exciting project that we have for development of single-family homes. And what we're looking for tonight is, again, your feedback, your input, your engagement, what we will use then to drive what this development will be. I would just want to, Jeremiah and his team, we have a lot of good information to you about what we're doing, even how we're doing, and who we're serving. But at the end of this, what we're going to do is commit most of the time that we can get your feedback from this community, how this will be a home, or for not for just the people who live there, but also where it is incorporated with the neighborhood and has all the attributes that this which will ultimately make this home for everybody else. So. So I'm excited what we're going to present to you tonight. I'm excited to get your feedback. Excited to engage with you, to really refine and determine what the scope of this project is ultimately be. We've done several of these already, and we've already started to kind of reframe and rescope some of this particular project based on this feedback. The more we do this, the better it becomes. So we appreciate your time tonight. We'll make it worth your while, and look forward to hearing from you. So I'll turn it back over to Jeremiah. Thank you.
And I've already done the simple mistake of muting myself while talking. Thank you, Ray. So is there anyone from the Vice Mayor Pro Tem's office, and forgive me as I'm navigating different panels here, that would like to say a few words to kick off?
Good evening, everyone. It's Dee Dee Chavis. There's an issue with my camera, so I apologize. I'm going to have to turn it off. Again, it's Dee Dee Chavis, Chief of Staff for Vice Mayor Pro Tem and member of District K, Martha Castex Tatum. I'm pleased to be attending this meeting on her behalf. And again, want to thank the Houston Housing and Community Development Department for coordinating this community engagement meeting for the New Homes for Stella Link program, and also to you all out there in the district for participating and providing your feedback. Look forward to receiving your feedback, and again, thank you for the engagement.
Thank you, Dee Dee, and we'll go ahead and get started. Just an FYI for everyone, so I am presenting from home, so if you see my eyes darting side to side, I'm trying to shoo away some pets who suddenly seem very interested in hanging out when most of the time they don't. So that's what that is. Give you all a heads up ahead of time. And the other heads up I want to give is that we are recording this session, and we anticipate uploading it to our New Homes for Sale link landing page in 2 to 3 business days, so that we starting tomorrow, likely Friday or by the latest Monday. But also, if you registered for this event, we will send you this recording and this presentation, the slide deck directly. If you did not register, if you just click the live link and you want this presentation, please feel free to put your email address into the chat and we'll send that to you directly. But again, if you don't want to put your email into the chat, it will be on the New Home for Sale link landing page, and we'll have a link for that later. So let's go ahead and get started. Excuse me. So these first few slides are just a couple members of the team here at the Housing and Community Development Department. So if you see us in the chat answering questions, you know that that's us. So feel free to use the chat as I'm going through this presentation to leave your questions and comments. And at the end of this, we'll have time for a dedicated facilitated conversation. So with that, we do have a packed agenda. It's split, even though this is showing 4, it's really split in half. So this first half is a little bit of a presentation, And the second half will be a conversation that we have with you to get your feedback on what you'd like to see at these new homes at Stella Link. So for the presentation portion, we're going to go over these four bullet points, which is the project background, so that there's a common understanding of what the development looks like. And then the second item will be our community engagement, which if you're here tonight, you're a part of. And then threes are key questions that we're asking of not just you who are with us tonight, but everyone in the community and have been asking since March and well through the end of this month. And then we're going to go into that facilitated conversation so we can hear your feedback tonight. So a little bit about the project background. This development is funded under the Harvey Single Family Development Program, which has three main components. And the first is to create new homeownership opportunities for residents of Houston, but also to make sure that those homeownership opportunities meet the community needs where we are implementing this program. And then to tie that all together to make sure that all those homes that have met the community needs are available for folks that are making a variety of incomes. So ensuring that homes, that there are attainable home options no matter where you are, or as many throughout the variety of income brackets that are out there. And so we're just going to kick off to talk a little bit about the need for programming like this, right? So what we're looking at here on this slide is the area median income in the Houston metro area over the last year. And so what this directly reflects is I think what most of us are familiar with, which is that our incomes, at least I can speak for mine, income has been relatively flat. So we're looking at on this top row, uh, four-person households at the 80% area median income. And then the bottom row is looking at household median income for folks, for four-person household at 120% area median income. So when you look at 2020 compared to 2021, whichever bracket we're looking at, there is less than a 1% increase in that area median income. But that said, we know that's not been the same for housing prices over that same time period. So if you were at the last presentation we did, this slide will look very familiar. We've updated with the April numbers in the last presentation we had the March. So in the Houston metro area, again, this is coming from the Houston Association of Realtors. Even though all of our incomes have remained pretty flat over the last 12 months, the average sales price for single family homes in the Houston metro area has increased 14.9% year over year. So if you're trying to buy the home that you moved into in April of last year, you're looking at $370,000 to do so. And just a year later, that was a $410,000. And like I said, I think I can speak for most of us on this call where my income did not go up $40,000 over the last year. And even when you look at median sales price, it's the same story, right? So here in this case, over the last 12 months, sales prices, the median price went up 16.6%. And so you can look at those numbers here, but it's telling that same picture. The incomes for most folks are staying flat, while home prices are going dramatically up. And all that said, homes, the number of units being sold is still going up quite a bit, in fact, over the last couple of years. So we're all living in the same situation. I think I can confidently say, at least for myself, when we're looking at, I've kind of looked at the potential of dipping my toe into the home buyer market, and just like everyone else that's in that same boat, we're seeing the same case where again incomes are flat, prices going up, and stock has remained very low. And just to bring it a little bit closer to home, what we're looking at here on this slide is the occupied housing units in three different demographic areas. So this is total housing units in each area. So that first bubble is Texas. And what we're showing here is that across the state of Texas, 62% of folks own the place where they live. So that's looking at all housing units, right? So that's multifamily rental, that's townhomes, single family detached, anywhere that people are living. In Texas as a whole, 62% of folks own where they live. When you look at Harris County, that drops, but it's still above 50% and right under 55% of folks owning where they live. But in this particular zip code, that is underwater, where owner-occupied housing is at 40.4%. So when you're going out to your HEB, Kroger, Randall, whatever your affiliation is, for supermarkets, maybe it's Target, the Super Target that's nearby. if you just look around the folks that are shopping there, you are more likely to be seeing folks that are renting where they live. And that's in stark contrast to, again, Texas, the whole Harris County, but it's, again, flipped here in the 77025 zip code. So, all that said, that's the need. And now we want to talk about the Stella Link development and what we're trying to move forward here. So, I'm just going to bring up all these bullet points real quick. So the site itself, and this is also, again, I want to remind everyone, this presentation will be sent out. If you didn't register, please put your email and we'll send it out directly to you. It says red area here. It might be a little bit hard to see, but it's not the entirety of the area. So it's along Sail Link Road in between bordering Willow Bend along Highway 90. It's approximately 12.2 acres, and forgive my coloring, I didn't do well in that part in kindergarten. And what we're looking at is up to 194 total homes, with some asterisks I'm going to mention in just a second. Of those 194 homes, 99 will be considered attainable. And what that, going back to that asterisk, I do want to mention that these numbers are subject to our due diligence. So if you're at earlier presentations, for example, we were originally saying 240 total homes, but during our due diligence, we saw that that was not going to be feasible. So again, just that huge asterisk mark, as our due diligence process moves forward, these numbers may or may not change, and that's why we're using the intentional language of up to. So, this may change, but I just want to highlight that again for everyone on the call. And so this is where we're at in the development process. So step one is already come and gone. Sites have been identified, and we're at step two. This is a vital portion of where we're at. As Ray mentioned, your community feedback is important. I mean, we began collecting that in March, going through the end of this month. And what we're going to do with that feedback is collect it, synthesize it, summarize it, and then put it into step three, which is issuing a notice of funding availability for developers in June or early July. And what that document does is it essentially is the playbook for developers to respond to that want to submit the proposal to develop that land. So your feedback is going to be directly implemented. And when I say that, I want to make sure there's a little caveat. We're doing Greek style democracy. So the ideas that bubble up to the top in terms of your votes and your comments as a community as a whole will be what goes into the NOFA. And so developers will respond to that feedback that you give us about what you want to see here at Stella Link. And there'll be other scoring evaluation criteria, but that's going to be a significant component. So this is your opportunity essentially to help play Minecraft or Animal Crossing in a very real part of the city of Houston. So that NOFA, again, likely to go out late June or early July. That's going to be a 3-month open competition for developers. And so we anticipate having developer selected around the October timeframe. So in between June and October, we'll come back out into the community and we'll show you where your feedback was directly incorporated into the NOFA, and we'll have an update on this development process timeline as well. And then finally, step five, on this timeline, and again, all dates are subject to change as that note on the bottom right shows. We anticipate phase one of homes being sold late fall of 2023 going through 2024. And so Ray mentioned this earlier, but this is and I know it says draft in big watermarks. I think I saw a couple of folks that were on via phone, but I do want to mention, so we are refining it, as Ray mentioned. So this original draft version that we're showing, and again, this is not final. Each developer will submit their own site plan as part of their proposal. Has changed based off feedback we've heard from you so far. So originally we had the entrance and exit coming off Stella Link Road, but based off some feedback we heard about traffic, one of the exits, which I'm coloring here in yellow, was added. So again, your feedback, your actionable feedback is very important because we are taking it seriously. So this is your opportunity to help shape what this development looks like. In terms of the home buyer process, fast forward to 2 years from now, right? So the homes are available for sale up to 194. Again, that number is subject to change based on our due diligence. But we're getting a lot of questions about what that home buyer process looks like. So for 49% of the homes, all homes will list at market rate price. So let's say they're listed at har.com, for example. I'm not saying for sure they're going to be, but let's just use har as an example. you're shopping for your new home, and you go on HAR, you're going to see all the homes are available at whatever the market rate price is at that point in time. All home buyers will start at the first step, which is this that I'm putting the yellow underline here, which is to secure a 30-year fixed rate mortgage to a private lender. So a private lender will assess, just like the home buyer process for everyone, your credit score, your debt to income ratio, all of that stuff. And for 49% of the homes, you'll purchase that at market rate. That's this arrow up here up top. Again, that another yellow line. You'll get a realtor. Well, we recommend you get a realtor. You have your fixed rate mortgage, and you go through that traditional home buyer process. For the 51% attainable rate, which is down below, you will also secure your 30-year fixed rate mortgage, whatever that is. You'll show that you were impacted by Hurricane Harvey. And what that means in plain language is anyone living in the city of Houston on the day Hurricane Harvey hit was either directly or indirectly impacted. And so you would meet the eligibility criteria if you lived in the city of Houston when Hurricane Harvey hit. So you're going to show that you lived in in Houston during Hurricane Harvey, and that you earn up to 80% area median income. We're going to have some examples of what that looks like in the next few slides. So you're going to have that program eligibility for those 51% of those homes. And then that home buyer will agree to put a 5-year secondary forgivable lien on that home in exchange for down payment assistance. And the way that's going to work is you're going to have the market rate price, whatever that is. And again, we don't know what that is yet. And you're going to have your fixed rate mortgage for this section of home buyers. We will, as part of this program, close what is called the affordability gap. So that difference between what you're able to get from your fixed rate mortgage versus the market rate price at that point of up to $135,000. Again, in exchange for that, you will put a 5-year secondary lien on that home. And I'm saying you as the home buyer. But at the end of that process, it's again going to be the traditional home buyer process that we all have to go through. You'll get your realtor, you'll have that fixed rate mortgage, all the work that goes into buying a home buying process, and it's just a few extra steps for everyone for this bottom row, but it's the same process essentially, other than those few extra steps. So in terms of homebuyer profiles, to kind of help shift and give some context to what 80% area median income looks like, we have in this example what we call the young couple. So this is a married couple in their mid-20s with an infant. They're recent college graduates because, like everything else, the cost of college went up, so they took a little bit longer to go ahead and, rather maybe they took some time off to work. Whatever the case, they're in their mid-20s. They just graduated. And these figures we're looking at for salaries are salary ranges for those positions in the Houston metro area, the lower kind of 15% rung of that, because they are, again, just starting their careers. So one parent is an admin assistant at a nonprofit, and then you have a first year firefighter. And this household would qualify for this programming because they lived in the city of Houston when Hurricane Harvey hit. They're, again, in their mid-20s. An 80% area median income for a 3-person household is $57,050 as of now. That 80%, that area median income is determined by HUD and is updated yearly around this time. So these are the 2021 numbers. So we will update this, and it's going to be what area median income is at the time that the homes are ready for sale. So I just want to put that caveat out there as well. And then we have a second example, which is what I'm calling the full house. And this example is a nuclear family, so 2 parents, 2 kids, so 4, and an uncle. The uncle is a 100% disabled military veteran, so that uncle is earning up to right under $40,000. And then you have one of the parents is an inspector, and that's the right at the 50% range for what an inspector makes in the Houston metro area. And you have one stay-at-home parent because you have 2 young children that are both going to school. This 5-person household would qualify under this program because they are earning up to 80% area median income for 5-person household at $83,650. Again, that number is subject to change and will change. We expect that that's coming from HUD almost any day now, so they'll let us know. But it's going to probably change again before the homes go for sale. So all that said, that was a lot of information, and I'm coming towards the end of when I'm talking at you so we can get to the point where we can hear from you. We want to talk about the community engagement, what that's looked like so far, and how it's going to move forward. So we have a comment period that's online and in the community, and so that's part of what this is here now. And so that's going through May 31st. And it's our intention after the NOFA is released to come back into the community for a recap session. So again, so we can show you exactly how your feedback was incorporated into that NOFA. And we'll also have an updated development timeline. You may have seen some flyers and banners throughout the community. This is one we've been advertising. We've also been advertising through our social media and asking community leaders to share that information as well. And we have what we're calling a social pinpoint site. So we're going to have a conversation at the end of this together. But if you're like me, I always have my best ideas after a meeting's over. So we have this free tool. It's social pinpoint. That's literally what it's called. And it's 24/7, and it's going to be up to the end of the month. And it's an opportunity to leave feedback anytime that you'd like outside these community meetings. So there's a map tool, and this is a screenshot of what it looks like for this site here. We're going to do a walkthrough so you can see its capabilities in just a minute. And there's also an ideas wall. This is also a screenshot of what the ideas wall for this development looks like today. So these are the key questions we're going to come together at the end and ask you about tonight, but also to help frame any feedback you want to leave on Social Pinpoint or even at the third community meeting we have at the end of the month. The first question or concept we have for you to think about is designing in context. And what we mean by that is we want to hear from you about what characteristics give the neighborhood homes their look and feel, right? So these are all, I shouldn't say all, the first four photos are homes that went up for sale within a mile radius of the site in the last couple of months. So these were listed on har.com early March. So we want to hear from you. What gives those homes that look and feel that lets you know that you're back in your neighborhood after a long day of work? So that could be common things like trees, the way the sidewalk layout looks, color schemes, um, porches or lack of porches. We want to hear from you on this, so that way this will be a development that is an asset to the community, that is part of the community and blends in. So again, that key question, what makes a home or house feel like it's part of the community? And then we also want to talk about density and good design. So have moderate density like townhomes or small condominiums. And that's the part of the reason for that is to help make homes attainable. We know that land is a scarce resource. That's part of what's driving up home costs. As I heard someone before eloquently put it, they aren't making any more land. So we have to be conscious about how we design the development so that it's a good use of a scarce resource, in this case land, so that it's we can help as many folks be homeowners as possible, but also so that it's a thoughtful design. So the key question here is how can we make slightly denser developments like townhomes or even small condos feel like they can be part of the neighborhood? But it's not just about the four walls, right? So another question we have for you: the four walls are where you live. It's not just that. What makes the neighborhood also important is thinking about ideas for designing for connection, right? So you want to think about in this question when we talk about that in our conversation, how do you want to move within the neighborhood itself, and how do you want to connect to assets outside the neighborhood and broader Houston area? So these are also pictures of a bus stop in the neighborhood and just some sidewalks in the development nearby, a neighborhood nearby. So what are those key designing features that you want to have access to when you're living there, right, full time, so that you can move around easily? Connecting assets and sell a link to the rest of Houston and the neighborhood. And then another question we're going to ask is designing communal space or green space. Um, so think about for this question, how can those green spaces and parks and common areas be developed so that it's an asset to the cell link development in the community, right? So think about like celebration that you have and like birthday parties, holidays. How do you want to celebrate those in those green spaces? How do you want your kids to play and interact with one another or talk to your neighbors? This is a key question so that way that this can be truly a neighborhood where you have the opportunity, if you'd like, to know your neighbors in a comfortable area that makes sense for the community. And not just green spaces, but also think about in between townhomes, condos. This is a picture of a row of townhomes and there's a green space in between. So really, it's your creativity we're looking for here. We want to know how can green and public spaces help bring the cell link development community together. And so we're coming at the end of me just talking at y'all, and we're almost to the point where we're gonna hear your feedback. So we're gonna use a Google tool called Jamboards in just a minute, and we're gonna talk about that in just a second. And so this is just before we transition. I just wanted to show you all some actionable feedback we've heard from you in prior meetings and through the social pinpoint tool. So I'm not going to read each of these bullet points out loud, but there's some key themes and what we can put into the NOFA. Again, because this is I shouldn't say again. Let me take a step back. I want to be clear that there's certain allowable expenses and funds that we can do with this Harvey Single Family Development Program because this is HUD or federal government money. And so the feedback we're really looking for tonight is what can be considered allowable. In this case, things that we can control the development for building homes and that green space and infrastructure. So some of the ideas here, for example, like bike lanes, green space for walking, those are things that we can definitely put in the NOFA if those are things that are valuable to you. And just a couple of other themes here. So this was feedback we had at the last in-person meeting. And so just want to give some little bit of context. The more specific information and feedback you can give us, the more we can translate what you want in this development to developers. So, for example, one comment, the first two comments are about trees, and we can definitely put the want of the community to have trees in development. But the second comment here, magnolia trees, is very specific, right? And we can be that specific. So another example here is walking trails. And what walking trails look like could be a whole bunch of different things. So one person had walking trails as a general comment, but there was a specific comment that they want the walking path. This was a different individual to go around the entire site. They were talking about having that be an opportunity for exercise or a jogging path. So you don't have to come with that level of specific comments if you don't if it doesn't come to you now. But the more specific you can be, the more we can translate your thoughts and your intentions into the NOFA. And so we are going to go to our website to show you that social pinpoint tool, and then we'll have that facilitated conversation. To get to that website, it's houstontx.gov slash housing slash home slash Stella link. I'm going to put that into the chat right now. So it's in the chat. And so that's where we're going to put the information, the webinar, the recording, and the presentation. So, and we'll send that to you by email. So if you registered, you'll get that. But in case you didn't know, that's where we're going to update not just these presentations, but as we get to critical milestones, as we launch the NOFA, as our due diligence comes in, we'll put all that on the website. And when I'm actually going to stop sharing the presentation so I can show that to you now. I think it's okay. I think it's showing now. So this is our new homes for sale link website, which is on this monitor. So now I'm looking off to the side, y'all. Key feature here is subscribe to our email list. So if you'd like to subscribe for updates, go ahead and click on that button and just fill out this form, and we will let you know when we get any new information about this development. And this is just some more information about what we talked about already. This is our social pinpoint tool, which I'm going to go over in just a second. And this is our schedule. We have one more community meeting on May 31st. And this will be at the Harmony School of Ingenuity, or you can join online like you did today. And this is the section where we're going to upload the YouTube recording of this and the PowerPoint deck. We also have a whole bunch of FAQs, questions that we've been hearing from all of y'all in the community. So if you have further questions, even if it's something we can't put into the NOFA, you can send us an email. We're putting it in the chat. We're happy to address that later. And this is going to be a key component of when we come back out to do that recap meeting. We'll have a lot more time to go through all these FAQs. And I do want to just put out there, a lot of these FAQs are dependent, asking very specifically about some of the due diligence that we're still doing. And so part of the reason we're going to do that recap session is so we can have further answers for you on those questions. All that said, this is the social pinpoint website. This is that free tool that I mentioned. As you can see, these are comments that are made, and it's easy to leave your own. So I'm going to move slowly because I know there could be lag. But these three icons are how you leave ideas. Just click, drag, and let go, or drop, and you'll get this box, and you can leave whatever comment you like. So I click the gather space. So for example, if there's an awesome park that you really want us to replicate, but you can say like, for example, awesome park at Avenue A and Road B. Uh, Please implement. Right, whatever the case may be. You'll put your email address here, and you'll agree that your comment can be used. And I'm not going to put that comment in there, but as soon as you hit add comment, you'll get this box here that pops up. And so, for example, this comment was left and it's mentioning walkable places and livable places. And another feature that you can use here is that there's a social component. So if there's an idea that you like or don't like, you can click on that, and that will be a way to also interact if you'd like that route. We also have a survey tool, which is just a quick 4 questions in English and Spanish. Um, One key question that we want to ask all of you: if you do want an HOA in the community, you can hit yes, no, or maybe. If you hit yes, and I'm just showing you what that looks like, you can also give feedback on specific rules you would like in that HOA. Again, we're really looking for feedback to help guide what that NOFA looks like and what we put in that NOFA. And then finally, we have an ideas wall, which you'll click on this here. And it's going to bring up another tab in your browser just to let all you know ahead of time. And it's a very similar look and feel. These are your 3 buttons here in this case. So you'll just click on question, and then you can leave your question or whichever the case may be. I just happen to click question in that case that time. And you also have that like and dislike functionality as well. So I hopefully I got to this person who asked on the May 17th meeting. I hope you're here. But other than that, that's the end of the presentation part, and this is where we're going to use that Google Jamboard tool to gather your feedback. So that's how we're going to spend the rest of our time together. So I already have that up. And so there's 2 options to interact with us here today for this Google Jamboard tool. So one option is if you want to leave your feedback for these questions, you can use the raise hand icon. That's in the top right if you're here joining us online. Under the reactions button, you'll see a little smiley face with a hand like this ball just like me. You can click reactions, highlight it, and there's a hand raise icon there. So we can use that to call on you, or you can leave your feedback in the chat, and we have our staff that will take your feedback from the chat and put it into the Jamboard so we can all kind of see it. And so with that said, let's go ahead and get started. I'm just moving some stuff over here on my browsers. Give me just 1 second, y'all. Right. Oh, and one thing before we start, I just put into the chat our email address, which is hsfdp. It rolls off the tongue, but it's short for Harvey Single Family Development Program, hsfdp at houstontx.gov. And so if you have questions or comments that you think of, again, you also can use that if you'd rather not use Social Pinpoint. Again, completely up to you. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So on this question, what makes a house or home feel like it's part of the community? In this picture, this kind of first column where we're looking at, one thing I want to draw attention to, right, is I was taking Google screenshots throughout to help put this presentation together. So I'm gonna go on that I wasn't driving through all the neighborhood and just taking pictures. So, but in these 2 pictures, one thing that I noticed is that I don't see too many leafy trees, like a lot of shaded trees. So driving in other parts of Houston, that's something that I do notice. So one question I have for all of you that are joining us tonight: how important is that to you? Is that part of the community fabric? Having shady trees, is that not important? And beyond that, what about vegetation? Are those things that are important to you? So that's just one question we have here. Another question to kind of hopefully get the juices flowing a little bit. Um, I see some pretty different look and feels from this blue house here, light blue, versus this townhome over here and this development here. So what are the colors and design facade that are important to helping blend with the community? That's another big question. Um, Another question that we have in terms of how hoping to make the home or house or home feel like it's part of the community. Um, One thing that's come up a lot are things like porches. Are those things that are important to you? So I'm looking to see if anyone has their hand raised or putting anything in the chat. So I'm going to pause. Does anyone have any feedback they would like to? Please feel free to unmute yourself, and we can go from there.
If you're joining by phone, you might have to hit *6 to unmute and then *6 to mute again. Just toggles back and forth. So *6 to unmute if you're on the phone.
Well, maybe another way to phrase that question is, what do you all like about the individual places you live now? So, we all have something about war. Hopefully, we all have something. I shouldn't say for sure. Hopefully, you have something you really like about how your home is designed, the look and feel, the number of bedrooms, for example, how you stories, uh, that sort of thing. So maybe that's another way to ask that question. Y'all can't tell me you don't like anything about your house or apartment complex. Okay, I see a comment in the chat. Other people take care of their homes. I'm not entirely sure what that means. Evelyn, if you'd like to unmute yourself, happy to hear to dive into that comment.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Other people take care of their homes. These are homeowners who will spend money to take care of their homes, to keep up maintenance, who do not require help or do not expect other people to keep up their homes for them. At one time, we had a tremendous number of apartment complexes on the east side of Stella Link, close to the Loop, that was actually called at one time, it was called Link Valley, but its other nickname was Death Valley because of the crime and the lack of care and the lack of responsibility that was going on. It was impacting the people who owned single family homes on the west side of Stella Link. And I don't see that you're necessarily have a way to look at the ability of people to take care of the homes or to pay the taxes on them. Even if they get into a house, the appraised value went up 15% just last year alone. And it is true that no one's salary went up 15% last year that I know of. Yet the tax rate, the appraised value is going up 15%, and the taxes will go up also. How do you know that people will be able to take care of have the funds available to take care of their homes? Because all homes need maintenance, plus to pay the increased taxes once they get in.
Well, every home buyer will have secured a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. That's across the board. And so they'll also be for the 51% of the homes will be required to take homebuyer education courses and the HUD certified 8-hour homebuyer education course. And then when it comes to that broader question, I mean that reflects every individual, right? So uh, I've known plenty of folks with money that didn't do maintenance growing up in my life. So we don't have a test for that, but for sure, this is going to be 194 homeownership opportunities. Everyone will have secured a fixed rate mortgage, so there's going to be a lot of skin in the game for everyone in that neighborhood.
A fixed rate mortgage is basically for the mortgage. The fixed rate is on the house itself. But being a homeowner, you would hopefully realize that when your taxes go up, the amount of money that you will pay to the mortgage company every month will also go up. That is not fixed. It will not keep your tax rate or the amount that you have to pay in taxes the same. It will go up. That means that the monthly payments that you make on that house will go up to account for the increased tax rate.
Right, but again, that's going to apply to every homeowner in that neighborhood in the development and everyone throughout Houston.
Yes, but these are being made affordable, as you say, and that they will have essentially some type of loan forgiveness. Is that correct?
The secondary lien will be forgiven over a period of 5 years.
Okay. Is there a forgivable 130% $135,000 amount?
That's the up to amount on that. That's going to be dependent on the fixed rate mortgage you're able to secure and the market rate price. So it may not be the full 135,000. It's going to be what that home buyer needs between that gap.
That was my point. If a person is in the situation where he or she needs to be forgiven over 5 years up to $135,000, that means that they may be basically, somewhat vulnerable to situations regarding their income or the ability to continue paying taxes as they go up on the property.
Okay, well, we can definitely note that, and we are going again. They will have secured that fixed rate mortgage, and we'll also do some income verification on our end and debt to income ratio analysis. Excuse me. So we will. Your comment is noted, but again, that's going to be something we can put in our parking lot, and we'll spend more time addressing when we have our recap session. Right now, the purpose of this presentation and our time together is for actionable items that we can put into the NOFA. Does anyone else have any thoughts on in general or anything they'd like to have noted for on the sticky notes for what makes a home or house feel like it's part of the community? All right, y'all, quiet bunch. Maybe we can come back to that one. So our second question is, how can we make slightly denser developments like townhomes feel like they belong? And one thing to kind of help frame this question, maybe there's examples of townhomes that you liked or didn't like in Houston. So if there's like a specific townhome development that you liked or didn't like, you can let us know that, or you can just let us know what you did or didn't like about those townhomes. Nothing on townhomes. So just looking at these pictures, for example, um, one of the things that we were hearing from other comments was one way to make townhomes feel like they belong is providing a sense of individuality to them. So, for example, in this picture here on the bottom left, um, there's a fencing to kind of help that sense of individuality and ownership with the lots in the small yards. Is that something you all would like to see at this development? Or another example that we've heard in the first meeting and on Social Pinpoint is to have the homes. I think one exact comment was not look cookie cutter, which is kind of reflected here on this picture here on the bottom right, with the design facade and the kind of bright colors. So if you're living out in this neighborhood 2 years from now, and your friend was trying to come over for the first time, you wanted to show them your new home for the first time. In this particular picture, you would see like, hey, tell your friend I'm at 111 Stella Link Road, and then at on the in the red townhome in between the purple and blue doors. So creating that sense of individuality that way. So that said, are those thoughts that this group echoes? Again, those are thoughts we've already heard in previous conversations. All right, I'm going to move on to the next one. If anyone has some ideas that come up for the prior two questions, we can always go back. So how about green and communal spaces? So we saw in the preliminary site design, again, each developer can propose their own. There was two kind of large green spaces, one at the entrance and one at the exit. So there's a lot of opportunity here to give feedback on what those spaces could look like. So green space will be a requirement that's in the NOFA, but to be clear, what that looks like is open for discussion. So that can reflect all sorts of different things, right? That can be the types of plants. I showed that example where someone mentioned trees and someone had very specific examples of magnolia trees. Um, or maybe there's features in a nearby park that helps bring the community together where people like to gather a lot. Or maybe even a school playground that is really popular with kids because as we know, this area, there's a lot of schools nearby. Or even things that can help facilitate, like I said earlier, birthday parties, holiday celebrations in general. Um, so, with that said, any thoughts on what you all would like to see in the green and communal spaces at this development. One comment we got a lot in the prior conversation at Harmony School was trees, but specifically trees to help with shaded areas. So um, that was one question that I was going to ask was shaded areas seem to be something that came up a lot. Is there a preference for that shaded area to be natural through trees, or kind of more of these structures here on the right that are man-made structures? 'Cause, as we all know, it's getting starting to get hot, right? And it's only gonna get hotter. So you're thinking about where you're living, and if you're uh, wanting to go out on a walk or having your kids play, you don't necessarily want to be exposed to direct sun through starting March, or maybe earlier, depending on your tolerance going through the summer. So, is there a preference for natural versus uh, man-made structures for shade? That's something we can definitely put into the NOFA. All right. And so again, we can go back to any of the three questions if something comes up, pops up. But the last question we had was how we can build connectivity into these developments. So we want to be very inclusive and think about safety for walking and biking, right? So it's not just cars, how people want to get around, how you want to use your bicycle or walk around the development. So what are some key features that we should consider here? We also want to hear again how you want to connect to assets in the neighborhood and throughout the city. So those are kind of the guiding questions that we have here. So how can we make sure in the NOFA that we are letting developers know either in the score and evaluation or required criteria to balance principles of safety and accessibility that are important to you? One thing that we've been hearing, and maybe this is an idea that will be popular or not popular with this group, is in terms of safety features, things to help manage the flow of traffic and being thoughtful and intentional around that. So things like speed bumps, um, painted crosswalks, a lot of stop signs, uh, things of that nature. Is that something that you all would, if you were a home buyer in this area, would look at and think like, yeah, that's great. That's great that where I'm living is going to have these features. Are you indifferent to that? Hostile even? What do y'all think about those kind of safety features? Another thing we could include, and this is something that we heard a lot of comments around lighting, and lighting in the sense, right, in two different kind of directions. Lighting, and this was comments again in the first meeting. Comments. Oh, okay. How about street lights? Yeah, so that was a comment. That is something we can definitely put into the NOFA, that there's a strong desire from the community here, future home buyers, to have well-lit streets. And that is something we heard a lot in the last meeting. So we can that's definitely a theme that we're hearing from the community, and that's something we can definitely put into the NOFA. So the intentionality around street lights and making sure that again, safety, making sure when it's out at night, you're coming home to a place where you feel like you can even if it's not walking around, even just getting from your car to the front door, having those street lights to make it um, pretty safe and that sense of security. So if we were to put that comment, that is something we can definitely put in there. Any other thoughts on how about connectivity issues and cell link development and things that you would like to see as a potential future home buyer? All right. Well, in that case, going to do a last call for the previous three questions. Any uh, feedback, things that we want to talk about in the last three questions that may have come to mind before we end this convening tonight? All right, going once, going twice. Okay, well, in that case, as a reminder, pull up that link. Our next meeting will be the 31st at Harmony School of Ingenuity. It's going to be at the same time, 5:30 to 6:30, and the same kind of format, except it will be in person and virtual, and we're going to go over the same topics. So if you want to join that meeting, you can go and register online right now, or come to the school at 5:30 on the 31st. And again, we have the social pinpoint site where you can leave that broader feedback. So that questions on property taxes, for example, um, you can leave questions like that there, and we are collecting them. We are working to move forward on answering those kind of questions. It's just some of those questions are going to take time, and but it is our intention because they are public facing, so we're not. Um, uh, we are acknowledging them, we are collecting them. And so if you have design feedback you want to put into the NOFA, which is going to be the thing we work on the first half of June, definitely feel free to put that in the social pinpoint or share at our meeting on the 31st. But other than that, that is all that we have for those of you that joined us tonight. So thank you for taking the time to join us. We realize that you could have been doing anything after a long day of work, or maybe you're about to get ready to go for work if you work nights and early mornings. So again, we really appreciate that you took that time to join us and learn more about cell link development. Please share this information for our next meeting with friends, family, and neighbors, anyone that might be interested in attending and learning more. But other than that, again, thank all of you for attending and have a great rest of your night.